Happy Thursday, everybody. It's not Wednesday. It's Thursday today. It's PTN Extra. That's Mike Irwin. I'm Evan Kamiko. Mike, we got a whole lot of stuff to talk about. We'll start with football. We'll talk a little bit about baseball, what I really want to get down with you, and talk about all the Tony Vitello and Kevin O'Sullivan drama going on because college baseball absolutely ate the other day. Again, we'll get there one thing at a time, and we'll preview the Cincinnati scrimmage, the CareSource Invitational that's going on here in Fayetteville on Friday night. Mike, let's start with football. Let's start and kind of wrap, as we always do the previous week. When you look back at this Texas A&M game, it was another game where Arkansas, they lost by 3 points. Yeah, it was a one-score loss, but you were down by 10 and had to come back. What do you make of another game that had the same formula as pretty much all of them have had?
I just think I've always said this, not always, but for a while this year, I've said I think A&M is the best team in the SEC. Mm-hmm. We'll see if they're better than Alabama, but they've got a really good blend of offense and defense. I think their offense is underrated. I felt like Arkansas would have trouble with them, but I also felt like Arkansas would have trouble scoring on their defense. And I was just shocked at that was amazing. That was an amazing offensive performance to do what you did against those guys because they are really good.
Yeah, it was an explosion for the Arkansas offense. And they didn't stall in the third quarter. They did put up a touchdown. They got 7 points. It was something we haven't seen lately. But where this team is lacking is its takeaways, its key stops, right? A&M was 3 of 3 on 4 downs in that game. Arkansas didn't get a turnover. They continue that trend. That goes all the way back to the Memphis game. That was the last time this defense was able to get an extra possession for the Arkansas offense. So they're turnoverless in the SEC right now. It's not a recipe necessarily for success, but you can look at it and go, okay, there are flashes of, hey, maybe Bobby Petrino could stick around as the head coach if the team is putting up that kind of performance. And what impressed me before we move on and talk about Auburn is the fans. They stuck there. It was a great atmosphere pretty much all 4 quarters, even when this team is down 10. And we saw it in the Notre Dame game where fans left the stands because they're like, this is about to be a blowout. The team stuck together and the fans stuck with them. That's what impressed me.
Well, I think right now, Bobby Petrino is kind of the odds-on favorite with the fans. And it's because fans like offense. And I think they believe, a lot of Razorback fans believe, okay, with Bobby around, we're gonna score points. So we just got to go get a really good defensive coordinator, and then we'll have a better defense. That's the delusional part. Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily happen. And that's what he's going to have to do if he gets the job. And that remains to be seen for me. I'm not going to assume that they can just go out and I'd look at Ed Ogeron. He said he doesn't have to be a coordinator. He just wants to be a D-line coach. He don't want to be in charge of any overall defense. He just wants to coach the D-line and recruit, and we know he's a heck of a recruiter. I'd go after him like you wouldn't believe because he has ties to Arkansas. He likes it here. So if you can get something like that going, and if I was Petrino, I'd be trying to do it right now. I'd go to Hunter Yurchek and say, hey, can I talk to him? Can we get some sort of an assurance that if we offer him, he will come here as a D-line coach?
And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays forward. Will that happen? Probably not. But let's focus on football right now and talk about kind of this upcoming Auburn game. Again, these are 2 teams that are winless in conference play. Arkansas and Auburn both 0-4. Both coaches, obviously Pittman is gone, so it's Petrino. Hugh Freeze also on the hot seat for Arkansas. You do not have Cam Ball right now. It is an undisclosed injury. We do not have any real updates on that. We've heard rumors that maybe it's a concussion, maybe it's a few other things, but Cam Ball not going to be playing this weekend. What do you make of this Auburn Tiger team that's going to come to town with Jackson Arnold, who's starting to get into a rhythm?
Razorback fans are assuming this is going to be an easy game. I've read it over and over again. They're not anywhere near as good as Tennessee, or A&M. They're not as good. But if you look at Auburn, when have they gotten blown out? They played all these close games. They should have beaten Missouri. They blew it there at the end. But their quarterback, I keep being told, oh, he's not good, he's not consistent, he's this, he's that. I see a guy that's capable of throwing a 40-yard pass downfield and hitting a target that's not all that open. I've seen a guy that can run. He's big and physical, and he can rip you off 15 or 20 yards. Their defense is very good. Mm-hmm. So, to me, the issue is going to be, can Arkansas score enough points? Because I think Arkansas is going to give up points to these guys. Anytime you take Cam Ball out and now you're once again you're down one of your defensive linemen, that's the real issue is you don't have a lot of backups there. So they get tired. However, Auburn, supposedly their starting center is out. So maybe that's a trade-off. I don't know. I'm just not assuming Arkansas is going to win this game. Until they win one, I'm not assuming anything.
I don't think you can assume. Assumptions do kill, as we have learned over time. And what's interesting about this Auburn team, like you've mentioned, the offense, total offense, they're 96th in the country. Defense, 24th in the country in total defense. So kind of polar opposites on the spectrum. And you kind of brought up the Auburn past games, and they're all been close, and that's absolutely right. Here's what Auburn's done in conference play. I'm going to read off my phone because this is our web show. We do what we want here on PTN Extra. Auburn, Oklahoma, the Sooners won 24-17. Texas A&M, you know how many points they scored on Auburn? 16.
Yeah,
Auburn scored
impressive.
10 in that game. Then Auburn had to go home and play Georgia the next week. The Bulldogs won 20-10. And you just said right there, a 23-17 loss for the Auburn Tigers against Missouri. So the numbers are skewed. And I want to ask this in the grander scheme of things, right? Is this Arkansas play style? Because we've seen the SEC kind of in like two folds right now. There's some teams like an Auburn that plays low-scoring games, and there's other teams like Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia, Ole Miss that play games in the 30s and 40s. Where does Arkansas have to be? Which scale do they have to be on if they want to win this game?
I think they've got to figure out a way to score more points on Auburn than most teams have.
Yeah.
Because, again, I think Auburn will score points on them. You always have an issue with Arkansas's defense. I'm not comfortable going into a game where you're sitting there going, wow, if we don't score a lot of points, what's going to happen? You're not going to win. That's what's going to happen. However, I felt the same way about the A&M game. I thought they'd get blown out because I thought they couldn't move the ball on A&M, and they did. So maybe they do the same thing to Auburn.
Yeah, you never know. It's always fun to see what happens. Any given Saturday in the SEC, right? A couple more minutes before we go to break. Mike, curious, who's your key factor on defense, right? No Cam Ball. Who's got to step up on that defensive line to get some pressure on Jackson Arnold? Or maybe it's somebody in the secondary or a linebacker.
I think it's the linebackers. I've said that all along. Here's where the issue is. The linebackers are going to the wrong places. It's like they can't see who has the ball. They're taking a wrong path here, a wrong path there, and then boom, somebody goes right by them. Linebackers have to be focused. They can't be deceived.
Yeah.
You got to keep your eye on the ball, and you got to go to the ball.
It's been trending upwards for both Sorey and Steven Dix. Sorey specifically, I believe the two combined for 19 tackles last week to lead the Razorbacks. So it's steady improvement from that side. Let's talk about the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the offense. Taylon Green, we've seen him step up. We've seen him play better offensively. But I'm still lacking, like for me, when I watch this team, it still feels like they don't get every piece in the receivers and tight ends really involved. Rowan Jones, we've seen a little bit more of, but I feel like the receivers, it's really just Omega Blake and Raylan Sharp. Who would you like to see step up on the other side of the ball? We talked about defense. Let's talk offense.
Well, again, I think Arkansas's got to run the ball. They're more successful when they run the ball. So both of your running backs need to have a decent day. That helps. I would like to see Taylon Green to stop when he's under pressure, turning his back to the defense and running backwards and trying to peel around. Move up.
Yeah.
Move up in the pocket. If they're coming at you like this, go right up the middle. Stop doing that. That's where he gets in trouble. He either fumbles or he gets sacked, and it didn't happen a lot against A&M, but when it did, it was very damaging.
That final drive where they scored a touchdown, he took 2 sacks for 38 total yards on that drive because of exactly what you just said. He goes to the outside. You try to extend the play instead of step up in the pocket or find your check down. It's a problem that we've seen Taylon have. He continues to have it, and you're not going to win these close games if you cannot fix those issues.
Yeah, if he does that in this game, that'll be a major step forward. Bobby Petrino said this all the way back in August camp. He said he's got to move up in the pocket. He's got to get away from this tendency to turn and peel and try to go right or go left. Move up. And then if you have to run, go off tackle, go between two guys. We've seen him do it.
Yeah.
And then also when you stay in that pocket and move up, somebody pops open, look for those short passes. Don't be looking a mile downfield every time you turn around. You can go for a first down.
And that's where we've seen the fumbling problems come into play when he peels out, has the ball in one hand, it's not secure, ball gets knocked out, other team gets the ball, Arkansas loses the turnover battle, Arkansas ultimately ends up losing this game. Kickoff between the Hogs and the Tigers set for Saturday, 11:45 a.m. over on SEC Network. Mike Irwin, stick around. We got plenty of baseball to talk about coming up next when PTN Extra returns after the break. Back here on PTN Extra on this lovely Thursday in Northwest Arkansas. Mike Irwin, Evan Camico hanging out with you. Mike, it's October. We should be talking volleyball. We should be talking soccer. We should be talking men's and women's hoops. No. We'll actually talk about men's hoops, so I'll suffice that right now. We're going to talk baseball because it's been one of the craziest weeks in the SEC, maybe in October of all time, with two coaches, not just one. You had two who are taking a leave of absence or completely leaving the program. To suffice this for everybody at home, I was sitting on my couch on Tuesday, Mike, watching X and Twitter, doing nothing but just being on Tony V watch. I think that was the most interesting thing. If you're at home and you're not caught up to this, Tony Vitello reportedly over the weekend was going to leave Tennessee and go take the job over in Knoxville. Remember, that's former Arkansas assistant coach. It's PTN Extra. We can talk about what we want. We're talking about a former Arkansas assistant who is now the manager at the San Francisco Giants. So he officially leaves yesterday. That news becomes official. Tony V leaves Knoxville. He's going to go to Tennessee. But you also had Kevin O'Sullivan, who's the head coach at Florida. Both of them have won a national title. Sully in 2017, Tony V back in 2024 with the Vols. Both are not going to be coaching in the SEC. Tony V definitely won't be there. Sully, we don't know what's going to happen. It's TBD. But there's a crazy rumor out there, Mike, that Arkansas fans are saying, well, Tony's just going to leave. He's going to go to San Francisco for a couple of years, then come here when Dave Van Horn retires. You want to dispel that right now?
Well, first of all, because of his time here, which he really enjoyed, he made a lot of friends. And there are a few of them that are really close to him to this day. Like they go visit him, hang out with him, go to Knoxville and hang out with him. Knoxville, that's not where they're located. They go and they've hung out with him. They tell me, and I've talked with more than one of them, and this was going back before he actually took the job. What they told me was that he's not going to the San Francisco Giants to mark time till he gets the Arkansas job. He's going there, and he's not mad at Tennessee either. He's going there because he's always had this desire, after winning a College World Series, to be the first coach/manager to win both, a College World Series and a Major League Baseball World Series, and he really wants to do that. Now, the rumors were flying initially. Well, he's going to make all kinds of money, $8-10 million a year. That job paid $3 million. And he was already making $3 million. So what's he going to make there? That went on for a while because he was having to negotiate them up. And even if he gets up to around 5, here's the issue with that. It costs more money to live in California. They've got a higher state tax rate. I don't think they have any tax in Tennessee. And the cost of living is higher out there. So even with all of that, his cost of living may go down. Yeah. You know, he may actually have less money. But like the guy I was talking to said, he doesn't care about money. He has no issue. He's been known to live in a small apartment. He doesn't care. He doesn't want a big fancy house. He doesn't have a lot of money he's spending here and there. Now, as far as Arkansas, he's really good friends with Matt Hobbs. They played together at Missouri. They are self-described really bad college football players at Missouri. They both became coaches. They're very close. He supposedly has told Van Horn, you're crazy if you don't make him the next head coach when you step down. Apparently he didn't have to tell him that because Matt Hobbs has had other opportunities to take head coaching jobs, and Van Horn has convinced him to stay by telling him, you're the heir apparent. When I get ready to step down, you've got the job. And he must like it here because he's willing to do that on faith. So I can't tell you that Vitello won't go there and in 5 years, maybe Matt Hobbs gets tired of waiting and he goes somewhere else and then the job is open and Vitello says, okay, I'll come back to Arkansas. But right now, that doesn't look like a possibility.
And I want to be really clear. In my honest opinion, there are not many jobs that you're going to leave the San Francisco Giants unless you bomb to go back to college baseball. Again, the only jobs, in my opinion, that you wouldn't leave your current job. I don't think LSU is going to fire Jay Johnson anytime soon. Obviously DVH, and we know what that is, but also Vanderbilt. Those are the three programs in my mind that the coach isn't going to just leave. Tim Corbin's been fantastic at Vanderbilt. Same with Jay Johnson down at LSU. Anywhere else is a crapshoot. You never know. Mike Bianco, you can kind of throw in there. But I don't think Tony's just going to go there to come back and take a job that's not a marquee college baseball job. Outside of that, Mississippi State just hired a new coach when Lamonis walked, and now you have Brian O'Connor from Virginia. And even Virginia at one time was a very high-power program, but not anymore, not in today's day and age in college baseball. So I think, look, it's a really big win-win-win for everyone. If Arkansas fans still want to have the delusion that Tony Vitello might come here in a couple of years, sure, you get to win and you get your mentality, so that's a win for you. It's a win for college baseball because you just now sent for the first time a college manager to the major league level. So that is going to be cross-pollination. I asked Tony back in June about what's so important about the Arkansas-Tennessee rivalry that was brewing between him and DVH and why he can grow the sport. And he said it's all an instant reaction. You see Tiger Woods making a putt and something goes crazy, it goes viral. Same at college baseball. How do you grow that sport? You bring an ambassador from the college baseball game to the major league level. And that's what I think Tony Vitello is going to be trying to do his best. He's already done it, been on SEC Network the last couple of years doing draft analysis for the MLB draft. So we've seen him kind of get bits and pieces over to that side. But it's also a win for Major League Baseball. He becomes instantly one of the most likable, one of the most emotional managers in the game. You don't have many managers right now who are going to run on the field like you do for Drew Gilbert a couple years ago when he hits a home run.
Right.
So I think in general, this is a win-win-win. It's a net positive for everyone, except for maybe Tennessee fans. But Josh Elander's been really good. All the players, he's currently the pitching coach, all the players have come out and said that they want Elander to become it. So I'm really excited about this. I think it's great for the game of baseball as a whole because it can help bridge together college and major leagues and grow the game to little kids growing up in San Francisco who don't know what the SEC is. And now have this dream instead of, well, I want to play at Cal or USC or UCLA in the Big Ten. No, I want to go to the SEC. I want to be where Tony Vitello was, or they learn about Arkansas, you learn about Vanderbilt and all these things that these kids on the West Coast might not know about.
Yeah, and look, just because he's left Tennessee, this is the other mistake Arkansas fans are making. Oh, they're going back to what they were before. No, they're not. The actual guy that most people think is going to end up with the job permanently is their hitting coach. The pitching coach has it now.
Yeah,
on an interim basis. Their hitting coach is a heck of a recruiter.
It's Elander. Sorry, misspoke. It's
Right.
Elander. Continue.
He's a heck of a recruiter, and there's no evidence that he's just suddenly going to go, oh, Tony's not around, I don't know what to do anymore. I think their program, he has made that program what it is. He can now walk away from it. I think it's strong enough now, it's not going anywhere. Arkansas is still going to have some battles with those guys. So you no longer have to worry about a guy that used to be here. It's not that anymore. So you can just dislike him without any of that weird stuff going on.
And to your point, there's also the other side of the coin where it could be like Texas A&M. When Jim Schlossnagle goes from Texas A&M, he becomes the head coach at Texas. They promote Early as the number 2 to Schloss, and they fall apart. So we're not saying it's entirely impossible that they fall apart. A&M came into the season last year. They were the number 1 preseason team,
That's right.
and they didn't even make the NCAA tournament. Heck, I think they didn't even make the SEC tournament. They did because everyone made it, but they really shouldn't have made the SEC tournament if it was what it was. So it's a really interesting conundrum. And now you have on the other side the Kevin O'Sullivan news. What do you make of that? He's going out for personal reasons. I just think it's been a wild week in college baseball and one the sport really needs.
I'm not going to get into all the stuff with him, but he has a history the last few years of having some issues. There were some things involving his personal life that became public, and it was cannon fodder. A&M fans were making fun of him, yelling stuff at him, and I don't know. I just think maybe some of this stuff overwhelmed him a little bit, and I got to step away from this. Personally, I think he'd be better off if he got out of the SEC, went somewhere. I mean, if I was him, I'd hand my hand up to Vitello. Hey, you want to hire me out there? I'll go out there with you.
Yeah.
Just to get away from all this.
Change of space can be good. But, Mike, that's going to do it for this conversation right now on PTN Extra. When we come back, we're talking about the CareSource Invitational. We preview that Cincinnati scrimmage for Coach Cal and his guys tomorrow night. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after one last break. All right, wrapping up shop here on PTN Extra. Evan Kamiko, Mike Irwin hanging out with you. Mikey, it's an awesome week at Razorback Sports, especially here on Fayetteville. We've got football. We've talked about soccer's got an opportunity to win yet another SEC title on Sunday. They'll take on Oklahoma. They've got a 1-point lead against Vanderbilt. If they win that game on Sunday, they take home the 5th SEC title under Coach Colby Hale. But let's talk about basketball. John Calipari and company hosting Cincinnati. It's a Cincy team that's up and coming. They beat Michigan in a scrimmage just a couple of days ago, and it's going to be really close. I'm curious what you think about Coach Cal's team, and what are you looking forward to? What would be a positive takeaway for you that they can do tomorrow night?
Well, what you want to see is defense. We know this is an offensive team. Cal has talked about, but when you looked at that scrimmage, the 2 scrimmages they had in Hot Springs, that was the one thing. There wasn't much defense being played. And that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
When a team goes against itself, you don't usually see a lot of stuff like that. So I want to see what kind of defense they can play. Obviously, you want them to win, but you're also looking for certain things. The dynamics between the three bigs, I mean, because that's what you didn't have a year ago. You got depth now. You can put two guys out there and rotate them. So let's see what effect that has. But also, do you have – remember that when they started the season last year, who's the shooter? They didn't have shooters.
Yeah.
Okay, do they have any shooters? Well, we think they do, but they still have to do it, you know. And then let's talk about the 2 point guards. You've now got two. Is that going to work? Do you platoon these guys? Does it change things a little bit when you bring one in as opposed to the other? Sometimes switching off point guards kind of messes with the other team's defense because they suddenly have to shift. Things become different from one or the other. So these are some of the things I'll be looking at.
I'm fascinated to see DJ Wagner in this exhibition. We've been hearing about him all offseason. He's taking another step. And Coach Cal said, look, his dad and him had different routes, right? Like DJ's had to stay in college for a couple of years that his dad didn't necessarily have to do back in the day. And it's okay. That's something that's all right. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So I'm curious. You talked about the guards, Acuff and DJ Wagner. It'll be interesting to see how Cal utilizes both of them. But really, I want to see leadership from DJ. I want to see him be the guy that I think Trevin Brazile and Billy Richmond will be the real emotional plugs for this team. But I'd like to see DJ take a step forward in that regard. We know he's going to score. Again, I'd like to see him also score a little bit more, but not just getting to the basket. That's what he does so well. But let's see if he can take a step up shooting from threes, maybe be around that 33% mark this year, and that it'll start tomorrow against Cincinnati. So that's what I'm keen on. But the front court, we got to talk about it. Malik Ewan, Nick Pringle, Trevin Brazile. I think it's going to be fireworks.
Well, supposedly Pringle turns out to be a little bit better offensive player than they thought, and Ewan is supposedly a better defensive player than they thought. So if all of that's true, then all of a sudden you got three guys back there that can do both. So, but let's see that. Let's see that happen. Don't just assume it.
Yeah.
Don't just, I'm sitting here saying that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I've heard means nothing. I want to see it, and we can all see it. You know, in this exhibition game, it's huge. I think it's going to tell us where they're at right now, and because they face a big schedule when the season starts. It's going to be tough.
If there's one thing I think everyone at home should take away from this PTN Extra is the theme of this episode is assumptions kill. I think we've said don't assume stuff like 4 or maybe even 5 times. It's been a lot of fun. Mike, before we go really quickly, any overarching thoughts on the rest of basketball season before we get done?
Well, I know how fans think. And we can talk about the NCAA tournament all we want and Sweet 16, so now you got to go to Elite 8. First things first, how long has it been since Arkansas won an SEC championship in basketball? They want to do that. Arkansas fans want them to win that thing. They'd like to see them win the conference tournament, even though it's pretty much a kind of a kiss of death to win the conference tournament when you go the next week into the NCAAs. They would like to see that stuff. Because why? Because that's you looking at the other SEC teams and going, eh. Arkansas fans don't like the SEC. And I am telling you right now, one of the biggest games of the year is going to be Kentucky coming here because they've been bragging. Their media has been bragging on all the money they've spent. They've spent supposedly 3 times as much money on their players as Cal has. So let's see that because that is going to be huge.
Is this like a turkey thing? What are we doing here?
You're just thumbing your nose.
A little thumb on our nose and wrap up PTN Extra for this week. For our amazing production crew and Mike Irwin, I'm Evan Camico. Thank you as always for tuning in, whether that's here on YouTube, 479 First, or our website, NWA homepage. That's going to do it for PTN Extra. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.